Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT Lady Selner, who was looking out the window, seeing the destruction caused by the army of dragons. Behind her was director David, who was telling her that all kinds of mana were running wild and spreading throughout the region. He says, "I never thought Hunter Jinwoo was telling the truth," and asks her what they are supposed to do now. Lady Selner tells him he's not the only hunter they have. The scene shifts to Thomas, who is destroying all the demons that were attacking the country. Lady Selner says hunters from all over the world have thrown themselves into the battle. Whether they're E rank or S rank, the ability of an E rank is slightly above that of a normal human. So other than the fact that they carry around magical weapons, they won't be able to contribute to the battle much. It's not any different in the case of C rank and D rank. When an E rank hunts one beast, a D rank would be hunting 3 of them, and a C rank would be hunting around 10. This is even the case for S ranks. Even though they may be capable of killing 1,000 of them, they will eventually perish like just another one of the many stars. However, when those individual stars fall and draw shapes in the sky, although very faintly, they show us the future, and people call this hope. The story shifts to Korea, where someone is informing Woo that Jinwoo has succeeded in luring the demon to a nearby uninhabited island in Japan. While Woo was thinking about what Jinwoo had told him, that there is an uninhabited island tens of kilometers in size in which a gate of giants collapsed and an enormous amount of mana spread throughout its region, he wondered if that was the reason Jinwoo was hiding in that place all this time. The man asks Woo if they should dispatch some hunters there just in case, and Woo asks him, "Aren't all the S-rank hunters in the US right now? What kind of hunters would they send out?" He says they could send out E-rank hunters and tells the man, "If you knew that Hunter Jinwoo used to be an E-rank hunter in the past, you would know that it's possible for an E-rank hunter to become a hero." The story shifts to Jinwoo, who is fighting the Monarch of Destruction on the inhabited island. Jinwoo was flying around the massive beast on his wyvern, while the creature was charging up a fireball. But before he could do anything, his mouth was shut closed by a shadow soldier. As the creature looked at the one responsible, it sees its belly in, who turned his sword into a whip to prevent him from using his fire. Seeing an opening, the giants also charged at the dragon and held it in place, preventing it from moving while Tusk was preparing a powerful magic attack. He threw the attack at the dragon, and as it landed, the creature screamed in pain. Not giving the creature any time to recover, Baru, along with Greed, leaped towards the dragon, using their lightning-fast speed to charge towards the monster and crash right into its face, slamming its head into the ground. By that time, Igris was also ready to deliver a strike on the monster's head. Using the lightning magic of the longsword, Igris electrocuted the monster, dealing a considerable amount of damage. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was in the air, observing his soldiers as they tried to take out the massive dragon. Looking at the damage they managed to deal, he thought, "It's working pretty well." But to everyone's shock, the creature started to smirk and said, "How amusing." The creature told Jinwoo that it liked where it overwhelmed the enemy with a significant difference in numbers, but it found the opposite situation quite amusing. Seeing this, Jinwoo was in disbelief. As the creature got back up on its feet, it used the ability of Dragon Fear and let out a massive roar, saying, "Allow me to show you the real thing." All of the shadows were affected by the wave and started to disintegrate. Seeing all of the shadows getting destroyed, Jinwoo thought, "I can't control my shadow soldiers like this," and canceled the summon. Before Jinwoo could recover from the attack, Antares was already in his face. The creature attacked using his fire breath. The attack was so powerful that it destroyed Kaisel in an instant and devastated the land in its path. As the dust settled, Antares was standing in front of the destruction and told Jinwoo, "This is the real thing." He continued by saying, "The avatar of destruction does not hesitate to sacrifice itself for the sake of raging war. I am the amalgam of blood, screams, madness, and destruction, a being created solely for the purpose of war. That is me, the king of dragons and the monarch of destruction." Seeing the destructive power of the monarch of destruction, Jinwoo thought, the enormous amount of mana from when the king of giants died must have sunk into the ground, and yet it didn't last against that attack. Even undying soldiers would perish immediately if they were to take a direct hit of his breath. As he was thinking, Antares started to turn back into his human form. He landed in front of Jinwoo, saying, "You do not have to be so nervous, Shadow Monarch. When you grabbed my arm, I could have easily broken free, but I did not because you impressed me by driving me into a corner. As a fellow monarch, I wanted to have a quiet conversation with you." He told Jinwoo, "If you have inherited the previous Shadow Monarch's memories, then you must already know this. Our ultimate enemy is not this world, but exists beyond the skies, the army of the rulers. Their only meaning in existence is to destroy the monarchs who were born within the darkness, and the Shadow Monarch is not an exception to this. I was planning on eliminating you and preparing to fight with them, but I've changed my mind after seeing how you fight. You possess a different set of talents compared to Ashbourne, and I saw our glorious victory within your talents." He told Jinwoo, "If you want me to let your family live, I will do so. If you want me to preserve your country, I will do so as well. And if you wish for me and my soldiers to depart from this land, I will leave quietly. Become the owner of this land. And I'm not talking about the castle in the hills. I mean the owner of the entire planet. You possess such qualifications." Reaching out to Jinwoo, he said, "All you have to do is hold my hand. If we combine forces to defeat the soldiers of the rulers, your family, your country, and this entire planet will regain peace and freedom. How about it, Shadow Monarch? Will you join me?" Hearing all that, Jin-Woo told him, "Don't make me laugh. You expect me to believe you when your eyes are screaming that you want to kill me?" Looking at Jin-Woo, who was prepared to fight, Antares said, "I guess I can't hide it. This was my final mercy to you," and leaped towards Jin-Woo. As his arm got close, it turned into a dragon's claw, but in the last second, Jinwoo jumped back and called Kaisel. While Antares was fully transforming, he attacked Jinwoo and Kaisel with his fire attack, but they managed to dodge the fire. Jinwoo ordered Kaisel to go downwards. As he got in range, he jumped towards the dragon's neck and slashed all the way down its throat, getting on top of Kaisel. He looked back at the creature, thinking, "That did not leave a single scratch." Antares told him, "You can't hurt me with something like that." He told Kaisel to get away from the creature, but all of a sudden, the monster used dragon fear, and Kaisel got affected by the ability. But before the dragon could attack, Kaisel grabbed Jinwoo using his tail and threw him far away from the range of the enemy attack. Jinwoo landed on his feet and looked at Kaisel. In the next second, Kaisel got hit by a massive fire breath, and Jinwoo was launched back by the force of the attack. A massive explosion covered the area. After the dust settled, they saw the attack was so powerful that it left a crater on the island. Antares said, "You probably won't die by something like that." Suddenly, a purple light leaped towards the creature's neck. It was Jinwoo, who managed to attach himself to the dragon. He thought, "The surface feels like magma," and attacked the creature using his dagger, but it had no effect as he was unable to penetrate the hard skin of the dragon. Suddenly, Jinwoo sensed the creature's claw coming straight towards him, so he leaped off before the attack could hit him. As he was doing that, he summoned his shadow soldiers, and Antares was surrounded by 3 dragons that started to attack him. Antares screamed out in pain as one of the dragons held him in place, while the remaining 2 started to attack him using their fire breath. Jinwoo was looking at the lizards fighting from a distance and thought, "Are the fires of the ancient dragons that Belian used to lead ineffective against him? He's got unimaginable power and defense compared to everyone I've fought so far. I can't use my usual way to fight against the king of dragons." He starts to summon another power, saying, "I need stronger power, a power that can defeat an armored mountain with only my bare hands." All of a sudden, he gets surrounded by dark mana. Meanwhile, Antares managed to defeat all 3 of the dragons that Jinwoo summoned. He tells Jinwoo, "You're trying to defeat me with that lowly shadow." But as he looks towards Jinwoo, he gets terrified. Jinwoo was covered with massive dark energy, and seeing this, Antares wonders, what is this power that is going towards him? He asks Jinwoo, "What are you scheming again?" While Jinwoo was saying, "I can use the power of the darkness to put on armor to make a bigger and sturdier dark armor and make it so big that every living thing in the world could see it." The dark energy kept getting bigger and bigger until Antares looked like a small toy in front of it. Seeing this, Antares realized that this was astralization and said, "It's impossible. as the Shadow Monarch was originally one of the fragments of light. So, they shouldn't have any other form besides his original form. But how can his form be so enormous? He wondered if he summoned the power of death onto Earth. How did he do that? He was just a normal human up until recently. How is he able to control the power of death to this extent? Jinwoo looked towards his hands, thinking, is this me? This is the true strength that the Shadow Monarch Ashborn has left for me. From within my body, from the inside of this enormous body, I can feel an incredible and unimaginable amount of power endlessly flowing through me. Looking at Jinwoo standing in front of him, Antares says, you are someone who has spent a lot of your life living in the realm of the living and the dead, and starts charging up an attack, thinking. So that's why the Shadow Monarch Ashborn was able to pass on such a power to a mere human. This human has been fighting a battle against himself all along, even before he received this power. So, for the sake of living, I must kill this person, shouting, he's too dangerous. As the fire got close, Jinwoo didn't move. He started to raise his hand and launched a projectile from his hand that sliced through Antares's fire and hit him. He started to scream in pain, but that wasn't enough to take out the Monarch of Destruction. Both of them stood in front of each other, and the battlefield fell silent. In the next instant, they both leaped towards each other, and as they crashed, the impact created massive mana waves, destroying the ground beneath their feet. Antares started to stand on his two legs and towered over Jinwoo's massive form. He attacked using his claw, but Jinwoo managed to stop it before it could connect and punched him so hard that the impact created shockwaves. But Antares wasn't giving up. He bit Jinwoo on his side, lifted him up into the air, and threw him several feet into the sky. Jinwoo crashed down, destroying everything. As he lay on the ground, trying to recover from the impact, Antares attacked using his fire breath. Jinwoo got out of the way of the attack, but Antares managed to hit Jinwoo's arm, completely destroying it. Seeing this, Jinwoo started to summon a sword and charged towards the dragon. Seeing him coming, Antares used his fire breath, but Jinwoo managed to block it using the weapon and slash the creature, cutting through the fire of the Monarch of Destruction. But Antares hit Jinwoo with his tail, launching him away and creating some distance between them. As Jinwoo stopped, he saw Antares lifted up in the air. He was out of Jinwoo's range of attack and started to charge up for a powerful attack. As he launched the attack, the impact covered a considerable amount of area. But from the dust, a dark spear appeared and destroyed Antares's wing. The creature screamed in pain. Before he could do anything, Jinwoo started to throw more of the projectiles towards the dragon, but Antares managed to stop them all using his fire breath. Both of them gave it their all, trying to overpower each other's attacks, but Antares was too powerful. He overpowered Jinwoo and managed to land a solid blow on him. As the dust cleared, the massive soldier started to disappear, and Jinwoo came out of the armor that was covering him. He landed and saw Antares towering over him in the dust. Seeing the situation, Jinwoo thought, it takes an enormous amount of stamina just to maintain such a great power. Antares transformed back, saying, this is my last offer. Do you really not intend to join me? Jinwoo got back up, saying, I don't intend on cooperating with a monster. Hearing that, Antares started to manifest a sword, saying, how foolish. Both of them leaped towards each other, and Antares told Jinwoo that the Monarch of Transfiguration and the Army of Destruction is destroying your everything. In the end, you won't be able to protect anything. Even at this moment, while we are crossing swords, he tells Jinwoo, even if you are the king of the dead, as a human, you must fear death. Do you wish for the flame that even incinerates death itself to turn you into ashes? Prematurely announcing his victory, Antares said, soon, everything you are trying to protect will be nothing more than an illusion, and managed to disarm Jinwoo, saying, surely you must sense it since you have awakened the power of Ashborn, and drove his sword through Jinwoo, saying, the countless cries of suffering in this land and world. Jinwoo kicked him, creating distance between them while Antares was saying, this is war. This is the sound of the army of destruction ravaging humanity. Listen to their cries of suffering. He placed his sword on Jinwoo's shoulder and said, let their despair become contagious and silence everyone. regret your decision. But Jinwoo told him, I should be the one saying that. As he failed to notice the Kamish blade hovered in the air, the blade hit Antares and distracted him while Jinwoo jumped back, but the blade failed to penetrate through the barrier that covered the Monarch of Destruction. He asked Jinwoo, you thought the dagger made out of a dragon's tooth could harm the King of Dragons? He asks, don't you find this amusing? A fight between a flame born within the darkness and a darkness born within the light. However, it seems this fight is nearing its end. Hearing that, Jinwoo agreed with him and told Antares, I can see the end. Antares asked, so did you decide that resistance is futile? Jinwoo started to run towards him. Seeing him coming, Antares said, the army of destruction doesn't even need to find this place since I will raise their morale by beheading you, foolish monarch. As Jinwoo was running towards him, the sun started to rise, and Jinwoo said, the sun darkens the shadows. Antares saw all of Jinwoo's strongest soldiers along with Jinwoo coming straight towards him. As the shadows held Antares in place, he shouted, I will rip you to pieces and turn you into Drake food. I will give you a miserable death for resisting against the King of Dragons until the final moment. As he looked towards Jinwoo, he saw Jinwoo's father and Ashbourne, all three of them in Jinwoo. And the last thing he saw was a young Jinwoo as he slashed the Monarch of Destruction in two. In his final moments, Jinwoo asked, I wonder if you can see your own death? We see the dagger that Jinwoo used to defeat Ashbourne was the one that belonged to his father. As the Monarch of Destruction was defeated, the sky started to crack. In his final moments, he said, I didn't expect that one, but it shouldn't have been possible. I'm certain I didn't see a gate when I first arrived here. An enormous amount of energy would have been required to connect the two worlds, so how is the ruler's army here? As countless numbers of soldiers started to descend from the sky, Antares asked, were you aiming for this the entire time? To distort space with the clash of great powers, bringing your allies from the other world here? The reason you distracted the army and the reason you brought me here? I simply thought it was because you wanted to have an undisturbed fight, but there's no way you could have communicated with the rulers. Jinwoo told him, there was a way. The vessels of the rulers, the vessels that they lend powers to, were still here. Hearing that, Antares understood everything and, looking at the sky, he said, is that so? You used the vessels to prepare a gate to this place. You found a way to win the war even if you were to lose the battle. It's my complete loss for only looking at the smaller battle. Jinwoo asked him, it was you who ordered the Monarch of White Flames and the Beast Monarch to attack the Shadow Monarch? Antares asked if it was the Monarch of White Flame who told him this, and Jinwoo flipped him off, saying, Ashbourne wanted me to send you his regards. Seeing this, Antares gets furious, and as he is about to attack Jinwoo, he gets impaled by the soldiers of the rulers. As he looks up, he sees the brightest fragment of luminosity hovering in the air. Seeing him, Antares says, the world is covered by such bright light and such dark shadows. I didn't have any chance of winning from the start. As he starts to disintegrate in the air, he says, I shall wait within the true eternal rest, not the illusionary eternal rest that you created. I shall meet you again there. Jinwoo replies by saying, don't worry, I'll see you again soon enough. The brightest fragment lands in front of him, saying, you've ended our war. I don't know how I could ever show my appreciation. Hearing that, Jinwoo tells the fragment, I don't know if this could be called showing your appreciation, but I do have a request, and it's something only you can do for me. The fragment tells Jinwoo, I will do everything within my power to aid you. Jinwoo asks him if he can use the cup of reincarnation just once more. Hearing that, all the fragments fall silent, and the brightest fragment asks Jinwoo if he just asked whether he can use the cup of reincarnation to turn back time. He explains that even if you turn back time using the cup, the consciousness of the monarchs will still remain. You'd still do it even though the deceased monarchs would come back to life with their memories from this life intact? Jinwoo tells him that's what he is planning on doing and asks the fragment not to send anyone to Earth at that time, as he will take care of the monarchs and their armies by himself. In the dimensional gap, the fragment says, you are willingly taking on the entire war all by yourself, and asks Jinwoo the reason for doing that, as they had used the cup many times. But this is the best result they have gotten yet. Looking at his father's blade, Jinwoo says, I lost too many people in this battle, and I want to bring them back. The fragment warns him that the durability of the cup has almost been exhausted. If you are to fail this time, you won't be able to turn back time again, he says. If you stop now, you could be remembered as the hero who stopped the invasion of the monarchs and forever be remembered by the people. However, no one will be able to remember the fight you are getting into now. After hearing everything, Jinwoo closes his eyes and thinks about everyone who is close to him, his family and friends, and gets back up, saying, I will go back in time. Hearing that, the fragment says, you want to save not just a portion of the world, but the entire world with your own hands. Your will to carry on everything by yourself reminds me of Ashbourne, your predecessor. The fragment says, I understand, and I wish you the best of luck. But Jinwoo stops him, asking about the shadows and what would happen to the shadow soldiers who did not exist in the past. The fragment tells him, the beings which overlap with the past would perish, and the beings which do not will remain. After hearing that, Jinwoo tells him, I'm ready now. The fragment summons the cup, saying, may your courage save your world. The place starts to light up, and the light slowly covers that part of the planet, seen by everyone from around the world. After some time, the light started to fade away, and the story shifts to Jinwoo's apartment building, where his mother is asking Jaina to wake Jinwoo up. We see Jaina as a child, who is asking Jinwoo to wake up. Looking at Jinwoo, she says, you're already up. As Jinwoo got out of his room, he saw his mother cooking in the kitchen. She was healthy and not sick anymore. On the side, he saw his father reading the newspaper. Seeing all of them like this, tears started to fall from his eyes, and everyone asked him why he was acting like this all of a sudden. Jinwoo tells them, I think I just had a nightmare. Seeing his family happy, he thinks, my nightmare is over, and now I'm with my younger sister, my mother who's healthy, and my father who didn't disappear. I was given the last chance to set everything right, and says, I won't lose this opportunity. I can now rewrite the future that is to come. But just for a little, isn't it okay for me to treasure this peace that I'm feeling as a reward for myself? I know that beyond the skies, there are monarchs preparing humongous gates to attack us right now, but for just a little while longer. If this time that I'm enjoying wouldn't cause harm to anyone, then I would like to stay here and enjoy it for a day longer. Fast forward, we see Jinwoo's mother doing the housework, and she sees a note on the table. On the note, Jinwoo wrote, I'll come back after I'm done with what I need to do. The scene shifts, and we see Beirut, who had just taken out a monster, along with Bellion, who was sitting in front of a pile of dead demons. We see two entities standing between all the carnage as someone says, this empty world that has nothing but endless darkness feels extremely lonely if there isn't any fighting. It was Jinwoo and Yogyamat. Jinwoo says, I managed to win the fight against the monarchs and killed the monarch of transfiguration, who was at the core of everything, and so it has been 27 years since I've entered the dimensional crack. But it looks like the long and dreary fight is finally coming to an end soon. The only remaining enemies are the Dragon Emperor and his direct soldiers, the Bridge of Destruction. As he sits surrounded by countless dead monsters, he thinks, I'm glad that time flows differently in the outside world compared to here. Around 2 years have passed in the outside world. He thinks, meeting everyone again after 2 years. I wonder how father and mother are doing. How much would Jaina have changed? Should I wait for her to grow up more before I explain what happened to her? As he was thinking, Bellion approached Jinwoo, saying, we have finished things up here. There are no more enemies that are still breathing. Hearing that, Jinwoo stood up and used shadow extraction on all of the defeated enemies. Along with Beru and Bellion, he prepared to go after the remaining monarchs. The scene shifts, and we see the Monarch of Destruction sitting on his throne as one of his henchmen informs him that the Monarch of Transfiguration has been defeated and asks if they should move somewhere further from where they are. Antares tells the creature, I'm tired of running away. We will fight with him here. He comments, the Shadow Monarch is truly amazing. I didn't expect him to use the cup of reincarnation to turn back time. As he was doing that, a shadow started to appear in front of his throne, and Antares says, to think I'd meet you again, alive and breathing. But it's time for one of us to rest in peace for eternity. Getting up from his throne, Antares says, I'm Antares, oh the second Shadow Monarch. "What is your name?" He replies, "My name is Jinwoo," and asks if he has anything else to say. And Terry's, standing in between his army, says, "No," and both of them leap toward each other, followed by their armies that charge in for the final battle. The scene shifts back to the real world, where 2 years had passed. Due to what some fortune teller said, the entirety of America was shaken. She told the media that the one who's about to bring doom will soon descend upon this land. Normally, this prophecy wouldn't have received any attention. However, the problem was that Norma Selner was the one who gave this prophecy in her interview. She said, "The one who is about to descend on this land along with an infinite number of soldiers of death. We won't be able to escape from death. There's no way for us to escape from him." We are told that 2 years ago, she, who was suddenly enlightened, had predicted the death of the North Korean dictator, the terrorist kidnapping of passengers, and the crash of the stock market due to the huge crash of the real estate industry. Numerous prophecies of hers have been accurate and have caused her to be at the center of a lot of controversies. And now she suddenly says that the world will come to an end. Of course, everyone would be in shock. The story shifts to the next day, where, in the skies of Seoul, a huge black hole that covered almost the whole sky had appeared. After that, Selner's prophecy made the headlines in all of the newspapers in the world. The people were gathered under the gigantic gate, waiting to see what would come out of it. All of a sudden, the gate started to break, but nothing happened. Seeing this, people were wondering why the gate was empty. We saw a figure standing behind the crowd. It was Jinwoo, and someone had been waiting for his arrival with flowers in his hands. It was a fragment of brilliant light, and he tells Jinwoo, "We're glad you've returned safely. Welcome back, Jinwoo, or should I call you the Shadow Monarch?" He says, "I didn't expect you to appear in the form of a middle schooler." Jinwoo tells him, "It's because people might have been scared if I came out with a full bearded face." He says, "It doesn't feel bad to have at least one person welcoming me back." The fragment tells him, "We really didn't think that you'd be able to make it back after trying to take care of everything alone. But right now I see that your steps carry the weight of 10,000 soldiers." Jinwoo asks the fragment, "I'm sure you're not here just to give me a flower bouquet," and asks, "What business does the envoy of the rulers have with me?" The fragment tells Jinwoo, "The rulers have a message for you. This might be a long conversation. Shall we move to another location to talk?" Jinwoo tells him he has a place in mind that he'd like to drop by. Fast forward, we see both of them sitting inside an ice cream shop. The fragment asks him the reason for choosing this place, and Jinwoo tells him, "After being in a place where there's nothing for so long, it is natural that one would like to eat something sweet." He asks the fragment, "What did the rulers say?" He tells Jinwoo they would like to thank you as usual. Hearing that, Jinwoo tells him to forget the formalities. Is there a problem? The fragment tells Jinwoo that the reason for him being there was that all of the problems had been resolved. The rulers are worried about your power, which can influence the direction of the world. As you know, the power that you possess is not something that the world is ready for. Jinwoo asks him why he was telling him all this, and the fragment tells him, "This world that doesn't even have mana is way too weak. Which is why, if you're okay with it, we're wondering if you'd mind moving to another world that's ready to accept your power." Hearing everything, Jinwoo tells the fragment, "Instead of doing something that's such a pain in the ass, like moving me to another world, there's also the option of just sealing me completely." The fragment replies by saying, "Of course, that's possible too." But all of a sudden, his expression changes in horror as he sees Jinwoo. After hearing his answer, he asks the fragment, "Now that I no longer have any use, are you guys getting rid of me just because you're afraid of the powers that I possess?" The fragment, scared, starts to reach into his pocket, saying, "That's definitely not it," and bringing out his phone, asks Jinwoo to read the article. He explains that back when Jinwoo disappeared, she wasn't such a powerful fortune teller, but after coming into contact with our world, her life has changed. Jinwoo asks if him coming back was the reason for the change that made her power stronger. The fragment says, "Yes, that is the reason." Hearing everything, Jinwoo asks the fragment if they could talk again another time about this instead, and the fragment gets back up, saying, "I will do just that," calling him the Great Monarch. After he leaves, Jinwoo starts to think about everything. If every living organism has a fixed purpose for their existence, then one thing's for sure. I, who became the Shadow Monarch and stopped the world's odd phenomena, and the monarchs with my strength, have completed my mission. I've fulfilled my purpose, but a great amount of power that has served its purpose is a pain to deal with, just like nuclear materials that have reached the end of their lifespan. If that's the case, would I now become an existence that this place does not need anymore? As he was thinking, he noticed a girl passing by the shop, and seeing her, Jinwoo's eyes widened. He rushed out of the shop, thinking the time would come when the question of whether it's okay for me to remain in this place will be answered. While the girl is thinking, did ice cream also smell so good? Jinwoo remembers everyone for whom he fought against the enemy all by himself, saying, if there's a reason to remain in this place, then it's probably that there are still people that I love in this place, and that people who love me are still here. Which is why that's enough reason for me to stay. I'll stay here and find other reasons as to why I shouldn't leave. As the girl turns towards him, he sees that it's Cha, and they both stare at each other. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.